This podcast may contain discussions of graphic violence, unsettling themes, supernatural phenomena, and other topics that some listeners may find disturbing or triggering. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are simply those of the individual hosts and do not represent the profession of psychology or constitute professional advice. Welcome to the Secret Passage podcast. I'm Dana Vespoli.
And I'm Shannon.
And welcome to another episode.
Welcome.
Welcome. We have an update.
Crossover, children.
All are wanted.
All welcome. Oh, yes.
Carol Ann. Sorry.
Don't go into the light. What's our favorite line?
Oh, the Skeeter ever taken nip of juice on? I don't know, Dad.
Or you removed the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies. Why?
It's so good. I love Poltergeist so much.
It's the best movie ever.
I know. But yes, we have an update. We did an episode on Alan and Catherine Kasanoff several weeks ago, right?
It was it was like our first or second episode of the second season. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was our first episode of the second season.
I believe.
Yeah. And we are happy to say that we got a message from Alan Kasanoff letting us know that he and his daughters are doing incredibly well. He's in a happy, healthy relationship. He started, he has a practice that is thriving. His girls are thriving. And it's just the best news.
Yeah. He's so sweet. I was very happy that he reached out to let us know. I didn't realize until I heard that they were all doing well. He also shared a poem that Allie wrote for him. I didn't realize how much I was just like hurting for them and hoping, thinking I would never know how they were. And it was just a relief to hear that all is well.
Yeah. And it really made me realize, when we do these stories about people that, these are human beings and there's only so much information we are able to get. Yeah. And it's complicated. Human beings are complicated and relationships are complicated. And we were really trying to be as unbiased as possible because there was a lot of biases against Alan, actually. Yeah. And that Free Press article was the most fair. It felt like the most unbiased, most fair kind of reporting. But even within that, there's only so much, we can do. So it was really nice to hear from him and
yeah.
And also see that like his situation was one that would have easily destroyed someone. And he and his girls got through it. Yeah. And got through it. Not just like got through it, but came out the other side and are doing so well. And that's, you want a happy ending to that story.
Yes.
And it seems like it is. And so it was just sweet. It was so kind. It was so kind to of him to reach out to us and to let us know that anyone out there that needs legal services in his area, he's available.
Yeah, so let me just say a little bit about that. Well, first of all, the thing you brought up about the podcasting and talking about people's lives, and I have massive conflicts with this. Like I look at true crime and the way I engage with it, and I reconcile it on some level. Like and just any talking we do about people and their life experience, it's like I don't feel like we are being exploitative, but I can see how people make the argument that it's exploitative to like take somebody's worst time or worst thing that's ever happened to them and like make a show about it and discuss it and talk about the angles and tell the story, but with limited information, like you said. It's like it is uncomfortable, and I am not. It's not an easy thing for me to do. We do try to be unbiased, and then I will sometimes share my biases, and maybe not clarifying that I know I'm sharing a bias, but I struggle with that too because I'm like, I listen to people who just share their opinions about things, and there's something so refreshing about that. And I have that whole thing where I have like, it's like a phobia where I, hearing other people's opinions about me and sharing my opinions about things makes me anxious. But I don't know. I think we're doing it in the service of having, a complex conversation or a conversation that can hold complexity and also with the goal of like really understanding. So that helps.
Well, sure, because I mean, we came into this with our own ways in which we consume content.
Yeah.
And there's some really wonderful podcasts out there that convey a lot of information, and then we can kind of take that information and process it and try to understand, how do these things happen? How do we live in a way where we can avoid these types of things? What kinds of situations are unavoidable? How would I wrestle with this particular conflict, depending on what the podcast is? And then of course, I get a lot of, my education from listening to, the Knowledge Project, or, You're Wrong About, like these different ones. And all we can do is try to be fair, try to be compassionate, try to be well researched in what we do. And then honestly, we can't control how people engage with the material, and it's not for us to decide how people engage, but
Yeah.
certainly there are people who can listen purely for entertainment, or they listen and they get a grotesque kind of arousal at hearing like true crime, for example. We can't
Yeah.
control that, but we can do things in as good a faith as possible, and
Yeah.
also admit when we fuck up or are wrong. And always, it's like, if you have a correction or anything, let us know, because we're doing the best we can, but we're only human.
And I run off at the mouth a lot. Like that, I had to edit that thing out I said last episode about there not being any longitudinal studies. And I was like, no, there's longitudinal studies. You just haven't read them. Um, but yeah, I think it has value. I mean, I wouldn't even be doing it if it didn't. But like, I really think true crime also has value. And
It does. It does.
and I think it comes from empathy mostly for us, like what we're doing and trying to the effort to understand and the effort to promote like talking about things while holding complexity. But I wanted to say something about Alan and his practice. Okay, so anybody who knows anybody who has gone through a high conflict divorce and had to engage with the family court system knows that it is a living hell, or could be a living hell, especially if you have a partner where it's not just high conflict, where they have like a personality disorder or they have some kind of mental illness and are vengeful. And I just want to put a plug in for Alan and his practice, because I think it's hard to come by attorneys who have lived experience. I think it's in here in his bio on his website. Their divorce was like the most complicated divorce in that court system. It was like well known
Right.
that divorce. Yeah. So I imagine that he has a lot of empathy and just skill in terms of navigating that system. And so if I was in the New York or New Jersey area, I would run, not walk to his office for representation. He does matrimonial law and also litigation, so general litigation. And he's got a website. It's kassenofflaw.com, so KASSENOFF law. And his phone number and email address are there on the website. And it looks like from the testimonials on his practice site that people find his just him to be very kind and giving of his time and energy and very helpful in terms of and navigating complex cases, custody and divorce. Should we talk about today's episode?
Yeah, sure. This is an easy one for me because I didn't have to really research.
This is a fun one for me because I've always, always, always wanted to be a talk show host. So today I'm going to be interviewing Dana, and you're going to get to know a little bit more about her professionally and personally. And then, as always, after our episodes, we record some episodes called The Trap Door for our Patreon channel that's not up yet, that will be up soon. And we'll probably ask some more questions today after the show. So if you want to hear more about Dana, you can subscribe to our Patreon when it's up and hear more then.
Yes.
Shall we start?
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
Are you ready? So if it's like, you can totally veto questions.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into the business.
Well, the quick answer to that is I had been an exotic dancer in San Francisco, and one of the places where I worked was the Mitchell Brothers O'Farrell Theater, which no longer exists. It was closed down, and it was an interesting place. It wasn't your traditional strip club. I mean, there was a stage show, like a stripper kind of room. It was called the New York Live, and that's, of course, music will play and a rotation of girls will come out and dance. But there was also like the Ultra Room, which was like a peep show style attraction, I guess you'd call it. And there would be two girls that do like a girl sex show. Like usually there's a theme. Same thing with the Copenhagen Lounge, which was like a flashlight show where people would come in and sit in the circular room on like soft, like kind of couches and have a flashlight where they would shine it in the center of the room where there would be a girl kind of sex show happening. And then there was the Green Door Room, which was like a stage that would come out, would sort of like rise up from the ground and the curtains would open and there would be like six girls on there kind of doing girl sex stuff. And then they would be available to do like private shows for anybody that wanted to pay and like watch them with using toys or whatever. And that's what I did predominantly. So I was already doing performing sex for entertainment, not just dancing. I would dance on occasion, but my primary thing was the Green Door Room. And so I had an early kind of, I my inhibitions were basically gone at that point. And we would have porn star features. And I had engaged with pornography pretty early on. My grandparents would go to bed early because they were old, and then I would turn on the TV. And at the time, there was a channel, a network called On TV, and they had Rendezvous Theater, and it would come on at like fucking 8 o'clock. I mean, it was really early,
Wow.
and it was like porn. Like there was the little voice that would say, Caballero Control Corporation, the world's leading in quality adult entertainment, and then like a porno would show.
My
And
God, we
so
did not have
Caballero,
that.
yeah, no, I don't know. This was the early 80s. This was in Oregon, and it was a channel called On TV.
On
And
TV.
yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty crazy. And they had like it was all Caballero stuff, and Caballero used to be, well, I guess the world's leading in quality adult entertainment, if that woman is to be believed. But it was like Ron Jeremy, Sharon Mitchell, like all like the kind of golden age of porn, really. And so I would watch that. And so I became a fan, which is frightening. And I mean, if I was doing it at 12, you see kids accessing it on their own phones. And we talked about that in another episode, but that's how I was engaging with it. So I don't know. I had just like a real fascination with it. it represented a lot of different things to me. It felt rebellious. It
Mm-hmm.
felt glamorous in a way. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
this was the porn where, they were filming in really, really nice locations, and playing characters that seemed to be doing well in life.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very exciting on many different levels. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was dancing, and I started there was a girl that I went to college with who confided in me that she was working at Mitchell Brothers, and she's making a lot of money because her family made too much money for her to qualify for any good financial aid, but not enough to be able to easily cover the cost of tuition.
Welcome to being in the middle class in America.
Yes. But she just struck, and I was like, but you're not addicted to drugs. Like, I don't understand. Because I had the same kind of stereotype, I guess, about the kinds of people that are, that become, drawn to sex work, basically. And she
Mm-hmm.
defied those stereotypes, and she said, "Promise you won't tell anybody." I'm like, "I won't, but tell me about it. Tell me about it." Like, I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, later on, I danced at some other clubs, and San Francisco it was such an interesting place in the '90s because there was such an interesting cross section of girls that I danced with. There were absolutely junkies, and then there was one woman who was helping put her husband through fucking medical school.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one that was getting her master's degree, and then just some kind of like ragtag, cool kind of rockabilly chicks that, whose boyfriends were in bands and shit like that. And so being a dancer in the Tenderloin in San Francisco just wasn't so crazy. It was very rock and roll.
No, yeah, it was totally cool. I remember when I was like dating my ex-boyfriend, and their band, they started hanging out with a couple of people who were dancers at that time, and they would play shows in the city, and then like between sets they would or like before they played, people would go to the Lusty Lady.
Right.
And I know it was such a time and a place. And Mitchell Brothers is cool and arty, and like also has like a seedy history with the
Oh,
brother,
the
one of the
Mitchell brothers.
uh
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah, Jim killed Artie.
yeah.
And it was on Forensic Files, the way that they kind of reconstructed the crime. It was so crazy. I remember because Jim got out of prison when I just started at Mitchell Brothers, and he would like talk to me, and in the back of my head, I'm like, "You killed your brother. Holy shit." And like R. Crumb like drew pictures of some of the girls like on the walls and stuff like near the offices. It was a good time to be a stripper, during the dot-com boom.
Yeah.
But that is where I started, and there were porn star features that would come through the club. Like Marilyn Chambers came, Nina Hartley, Kylie Ireland, who I was on set with recently because she does set design now. And I was like, "I met you in the '90s." She goes, "I probably was drunk." Because she was feature dancing. She was a Wicked contract star at the time. But I was like, I got my Polaroid picture taken with her, and Terry Weigel, like just all these different people. And I would talk to them, and I was a fan of their work and things like that. And so it was not a huge leap to then move to Los Angeles. And at the time I moved to LA, I was doing like mainstream commercial work and things, but SAG was constantly going on strike, and I was running out of money. And I started doing PA and second AD work on softcore,
Hmm.
softcore stuff for Playboy TV.
I remember this.
Yeah. And then I would talk to different industry people and stuff, because a lot of like the hardcore performers would also do softcore, and I would talk to them, and they were like, "Why aren't you doing porn? Like, so much about like, I mean, you're such a fan of like these porn stars. Like, why aren't you just doing it?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I realized there's really the only reason that I wasn't was because I was worried about what people would think of me. But I'm like, dude, my close friends like saw me through my girl sex shows at Mitchell Brothers and didn't really care. So that's how I got in. Basically,
Hmm.
I went to Jim South, who was like probably one of the first porn agents ever, and I went to his office, and then that's how it began. That's how I got in.
Awesome. I remember when you first started dancing, I had so many questions. Like it was just such a bold move. I felt like, and it just seemed like the right move.
Yeah, it's it's funny because I mean that's the that's how I got in. The why sex work is a question I've been grappling with for a very, very long time. And it's a less
Yeah.
it's more complicated. It's a lot more complicated. And that one is, it's hard. I hesitate to ever really go into it because I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, trauma is what led me to sex work, because it fits a stereotype. But I mean, it is a reason why a lot of not just women but people like men find their way into sex work. But that's not everyone. And I know that's not everyone because I have friends who got into sex work that didn't come from broken homes or were victims of, sexual assault or anything like that. But for me personally, I think that I learned really, really early, unfortunately, that I could essentially that my value was linked closely with my physical body.
Yeah.
And so, I was, molested at an early age. I didn't get the adults that were supposed to help me didn't. And I learned I was sexualized by older men at an early age, not just being having been molested by a family friend, but just also men being inappropriate.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, I was dealing with a lot of kind of like racial subjugation, but also fetishized for it. Being, a half Asian girl and woman, it was this weird dance of being othered, and then also again that kind of thing. It's like, but I'm good for this.
Right. Right. You're so exotic.
Exactly. And so it was just it was I think also a case of if getting these messages early, not getting the protection. I carried that, and then as I grew older, I was also always involved in activities that really forced this hypervigilance about my physical body.
Mm.
With I was like a child model, and I was hearing that at 5'7" I needed to be 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I of course could never maintain at 100 pounds. So I was chronically dieting. I was also a dancer, and girls in the company I was in, girls would be put on probation if they got too heavy. So there was the constant fear of being seen as too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So this preoccupation with my physical body, and then also that my physical body is regarded in this certain way, and it created very complicated relationships with men. And I didn't grow up with a father, so there's that as well. So my interactions with men were always bizarre.
Mm.
Not all men, of course. I had some wonderful teachers and stuff, but there was a lot of kind of inappropriateness. And so there was a logical next step to leveraging my physical body as a means to for validation and money.
Mm-hmm. That makes
And
sense.
yeah, so there's that one side where I kind of did everything I was supposed to. I did fine in high school. I did a lot of activities in high school. I went to college. I, played sports. In college, I graduated from college. I had friends who, went on to law school, medical school, all that kind of stuff. But there was this other side where I was, engaging in a lot of kind of weird sex,
Mm-hmm.
and engaging in some self harm, and preoccupied with this kind of fringe world that I felt was more accepting of me. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt made more sense to me. And so I kind of was toying both lines. And that's kind of this is where I'm landing as far as the why.
Yeah.
And it's not sexy, but it's the truth.
Right.
And and the business has been, I've gotten a lot of, I mean, I've met a lot of really wonderful and kind people, and I've also met a lot of really horrible people, as you would expect. But, I think that's why
Yeah.
my trajectory was different than a lot of other people's.
Yeah. I think the truth is very sexy. But
That's hot.
the
Yeah.
truth is hot. But no, for real. I mean, like, I always, when you were making the leap into dancing, that was kind of around the time, I had my rock and roll boyfriend. Um, we were friends before. And I remember at the time just really looking up to you for being able to, like, well, first of all, perform without passing out or freezing like I would. And then to enter that world. And I get that it's totally tied to a lot of things. And I don't want to, we don't have to dwell on this too much. But one thing I always wondered about too with, like, well, dancing. I mean, a dancer's relationship with their body. You were the first person that told me dancers beat up their bodies. Like, dancers drink and they smoke and all these things. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting, right? Because a lot of your friends back in the day were like smoking and drinking, and they were dancers, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they were. Are you talking about strippers?
No, no, like mills, like
Oh, oh,
the
yeah,
dancer
like
dancers.
modern, yeah, the
Yeah.
modern dancers and the ballerinas and stuff. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, but modern dancers, the great thing about modern, especially with certain companies like Bill T. Jones, Arnie Zane and company, had such an amazing. It was a very body positive company, if I recall correctly. But modern dancers, there was a little more flexibility with body types.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see a lot of very athletic bodies, a lot of curvy bodies, and that these different bodies could do such beautiful movement.
Mm-hmm.
The ballerinas, it's a different story. There's a very kind of specific aesthetic tied to it, and so you would see a lot of dieting and smoking and and all that kind of thing. Not all of them. Some of them were lucky enough to kind of just genetically have the ideal ballerina body type.
Uh-huh. The ectomorph body.
Yeah.
So like, but that shocked me. And I remember thinking at the time, like, yeah, it's just an interesting relationship with your body that it's someone's watching it. Like, you have to sort of relate to it in a different way than most people do have to relate to their bodies. But the thing about childhood, like child abuse, sexual abuse, is I always wondered too, just about the boundary thing. Do you think that's a part of it too? Just having your boundaries sort of violated, and it changes the way you feel, like, I don't know. Is that part of it at all?
Yeah. So, like a lot of kids,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I somehow did that. It was my fault.
Yeah.
And I think I also, as a way to cope,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, I think I wanted to downplay it
Mm-hmm.
in my own mind and then try to see it, any kind of male attention or any kind of validation that I got from my physical body, as empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's not empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to earn your own money, set your own schedule, make your own rules, that's empowering. The way in which I was doing it is not in and of itself empowering, because it's predicated on me having a good night
Yeah.
at the
Yep. Yep.
club. If I'm sitting on and there were times, it was the 90s at Mitchell Brothers, and fucking people were coming in with a lot of money to spend. And if I just basically sat there doing nothing and walked out of the club with $1,000, which at that time was a lot of money for really, one evening, of
Mm-hmm.
course I feel empowered. But what about the evening when some guy insults me for, my body, or just not being pretty enough to him, and I barely make $20? Is it still empowering work?
Ugh.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. I can have a shitty day, like when I was walking dogs at the pet resort, and I can have a shitty day where maybe the manager was not nice or some of the customers were dicks that came in to,
Mm-hmm.
drop off their dogs or pick them up. But the work itself is good. The work itself is I'm taking care of these animals. The work itself is these animals trust me and I have their best interest at heart. The work itself is honorable. The work itself can be seen as empowering.
Yes. Oh,
And that's the
yes.
thing, when I'm making my living based on if a guy thinks I'm hot enough to give money to, that's not empowering. And
No.
so I say all that, and I had wonderful times at that club. I still dream about working there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I had wonderful evenings. I loved dancing, and I would get to play the music that I really liked on stage when the nights when I was dancing, and just fucking have the best time dancing. And I loved the DJs that worked there. They were cool. And a lot of the employees were wonderful people. A lot of the girls were incredible. But the work itself it is what it is, but I'm not gonna pretend like there was anything empowering about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I got myself out of debt, making my own money. I did get to set my own schedule. Like I did, that shit was great. But I have to be honest. There were those nights where I left feeling like crap, and the
Mm-hmm.
guys were horrible. Like that it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard not to personalize something that has to do with you and your body,
Of course.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Oh, of course. It's really.
yeah, but I think that I lied to myself and said it was empowering. I saw the way that men looked at me as somehow powerful, and I think it stems back from learning early that my value was tied to my body.
Yeah. Totally. I feel like that just we get that programming just as women,
Sure.
right? Like,
Yeah.
better be cute. So, want to have another question?
Sure.
Okay. So, in terms of like working with people in the industry, who have been your favorite people to perform with?
To perform with. Okay. Let me see. Well, definitely, there's a performer, Annika Albright. She's one of
Hmm.
my favorite people to work with. The late John Doe,
Hmm.
who died in 2006, but I worked with him twice. But I don't know why I had a really nice connection with him. I wrote about him in my master's thesis a few
Hmm.
years ago.
And what was it about working with him or with?
He he was a very intense. He was a very just tormented soul.
Hmm.
And he's very broody, but I don't know why I felt like I connected with him in some way. Like
Hmm.
there was like a chemistry there. And I just remember having a really nice moment with him just before it was actually a scene that he was directing. I wasn't in the scene with him, but we were just sort of talking about travel or something like that. And I just sensed there was a lot of depth there with him. I don't know why. It kind of resonated with me. And I didn't know him really well. I just had been on set with him a few times and had worked with him twice. And then when he died, I just remember having like really weird, bad dreams. And then
Hmm.
I read about his life later. And he had really been through it. And it all made sense, like why he was somebody who struggled so much. He
Hmm.
had addiction issues and couldn't stay clean to save his life, and
Hmm.
then took his own life in 2006. So he was someone though that I don't know why he was a very compelling figure,
Hmm.
especially because I worked with him early in my career. So
Hmm.
him just good chemistry, and also who else? Belladonna.
Hmm.
I really liked Belladonna a lot. I worked with her one time, but I really liked her. And let me see. I did really good scenes with Isaiah Maxwell. I liked Shawn Michaels. And who else? There's so many. I mean, I did
Mm-hmm.
some really great scenes. Probably the best scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think this will sort of like be of interest to anyone who's like, well, what is the best scene? Because it's also with two people that would be on that list. The best scene I think in my entire career so far is a scene that I did with Ramon Nomar and Valentina Nappi, and it was in a movie called Boy Girl. It was my movie that I also directed. It's the best scene I've ever done, and it was with those two people.
Hmm.
It's when just there is this synergy, when there's just this weird kind of dance that all our bodies were doing. It's like we couldn't, there was no awkwardness in it.
Wow.
It was a really, really great scene. Best
Hmm.
scene that it's probably the best scene I will ever do, because I just don't do those kinds of scenes anymore. It's just that it's those scenes don't exist anymore, really. They're rare, I should say. They do exist, but no one is really shooting those anymore, where it's just good, strong, kind of athletic sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now they're all into like incest fantasies.
Yeah, exactly. But you're my stepmom and you're my stepdad and I'm 20 but acting like I'm 13. Yeah.
Oh. So, who are your like people that you really like in the industry just personally? Like your friends or people you like?
People I like. Well, of course, the first person that comes to mind is Caden Cross,
Mm-hmm.
who's just amazing. I love her so much. And she is not just somebody from the industry that I like and consider a friend. She's just like one of the closest people to me. She's we call each other sister wife,
Mm.
because she's married to my ex husband Manuel, and I just it's one of those funny things where she and I just it's my joke is always like the best thing to come out of that relationship aside from my children with Manuel is Caden, because
Yeah.
I get her. She's just great and
Mm-hmm.
so just whip smart, so intelligent, so talented as a writer, as a director. Like a she's kind of like this frontier woman. Like she's got this farm and she just is out there by herself, like just, you know, making mulch and washing horses and just planting gardens and all that. Like she's just it's just funny because if you look at her, you wouldn't realize she's as hardy as she is, but definitely her,
Mm-hmm.
just amazingly wonderful. And it's just funny because I feel like I don't know that our paths would have ever crossed had it not been for Manuel, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened. So I love her, and Jackie St. James,
Mm-hmm.
who is a director in the business, another just wonderful, bright, funny, smart, talented woman. John Staliano, who he was a director. He's known as Buttman.
Mm-hmm.
He started Evil Angel. That's his company, and it's a company that I directed for a decent amount of time. And he is also famous for having to go before the Supreme Court on an obscenity charge for a movie he made called Milk Nymphos.
Oh.
So that
Milk
is that
nymphos?
Milk Nymphos, because they were shooting milk out of their asses and it was,
Ah,
considered
okay.
obscene. So that is an interesting bit of history as well,
Yes.
like legal history as well. But he's just a deeply philosophical man,
Mm.
another like super bright, very very libertarian. It's always great. It's you can't have a conversation with John Staliano without getting into this debate about he's a libertarian and
Mm-hmm.
about politics, or also pornography, and he reads a lot and all that. But he's someone that I always thought was really great. There's I'm thinking just in terms of people that I've spent the most time with. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people I actually really like, but I don't know them that well. But these are the
Mm-hmm.
people that I've actually spent the most time around. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Cool. Anybody else?
We can move on because otherwise we'll just
Yeah,
be here all
like
day
I
because
like
there's
her, I like
yeah.
him.
But I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. I try to narrow it by going, who have I actually spent like quite a bit of time around?
Yeah. Let's see. I have so many fun ones I can ask. Like, what's one of the funniest things that's happened on a set?
There's a lot
Yeah, or
actually.
funny stories from the industry.
Oh, okay. Here's this is funny. So I was pregnant in this was 2006, and I was pregnant. I was directing. I was shooting camera, and I had gotten sick, bronchitis or something. And there's nothing. I mean, being sick sucks. Being sick when you're pregnant and you're limited on the types of medication you can take is next level. But we had to shoot a scene, and I had two performers, and I'm like hold and so this one particular male performer, it was Michael Stefano. I'll just say that because there's nothing insulting that happened. It was Michael Stefano and a girl who went by the name Mia Bang, and he was setting up for the pop shot. And so sometimes, guys in the business they call it fuck to pop, right? So they can have sex, and then when they are ready to ejaculate, just go right to it. And some guys, just because of fatigue, sometimes just because they're real particular about the ways in which they do, well, they call it setting up to pop. So in the old days, it was, and they still do it now sometimes, the guy is standing there and he's jerking off, and the girl is like kind of like kneeling down in front to wait for the pop to like go on her face or her tits or in her mouth or whatever. And Michael Stefano was
Mhm.
really OCD about certain things. And normally I would stop the camera and just wait and then hear the guy say, okay, I'm ready, and then
Mhm.
turn the camera on, right? Just stay in
Mhm.
position, but like turn the camera off. He wanted the camera to keep running just in case. And this was back when, I mean, Mike was working constantly. And so sometimes his pop shot was going to take a while, but
Mhm.
I had to fucking keep the camera going. And I didn't know when it was going to come. And I'm
Mhm.
holding it in position and I feel like I need to fucking cough because I'm
Oh
sick.
God.
And the problem is if I cough, we have to start over. Like not the scene, but like it starts the process. And this can take 15 minutes.
Ugh.
So I look over at the photographer and I make motion with my eyes to hold the camera just in case in the position I had it in. So he quietly comes over. Mike has his eyes closed. He doesn't see what's going on. Mia's probably just thinking about what she's going to eat for lunch. And he takes the camera, and I quickly walk down the hall,
Mhm.
out of the house, down the driveway a little bit, cough as hard as I can to get it out, quickly walk back in. Michael still hasn't popped yet. Take the camera from the photographer as though nothing happened. Michael had no idea this happened. His
Uh-huh.
eyes were closed. But it was that's the one of the, there's a lot, but I'll never forget that because I was like, I can't like, yeah. And if I recall correctly, he popped pretty quickly after.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, it's one of
Nice,
those funny
nice.
things.
Yeah, way to go though. Like
Yeah,
way to get the shot and get your cough.
I am resourceful. I'm a problem solver.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty
Yeah,
flexy.
yeah,
God, I can just imagine. I can so imagine the stuff that happens. If you think of anything else, feel we can talk about it on our after episode too.
sure,
So, one thing I wanted to talk about today, because we've talked about it often, as a veteran in the industry, you have, a really interesting perspective, right, over
sure.
time. And as somebody who started engaging with porn at 12 when it was a different animal. What are some of the main issues you see with the industry as it is currently and where it's headed, like in terms of content and everything? Anything, even technology or, you know.
Well, my what one of my main concerns is just how easily accessible it is.
Hmm.
That's one thing, and that's not just for minors. It's also for people that are clearly addicted to it, addicted to the
Hmm.
content and what it's doing to people's personal relationships. You
Hmm.
know, because the bottom line is this: like, I had this friend back in the day who could go out one night and do a bunch of coke and not
Mm-hmm.
touch it again for years.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, coke's not my problem. Like I enjoy it. I do it sometimes. What's the big deal? Then there's
Mm-hmm.
people who will do a line of coke and then within a few weeks have like a hefty 8 ball a day habit.
Yeah. Just do
And
all
then
the
they lose
coke
their
all the
job.
time.
And
Yeah.
then they end up like turning tricks out of a fucking Motel 6 downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's safe to say that cocaine is just sort of generally kind of dangerous, you
Yeah.
know? You can't get rid of it, you know? And
Yeah.
and for those that can kind of do it for as like a leisurely activity here and there, that's fine, but there's also people that lose everything because of it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that porn is similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not trying to get rid of it. Obviously it's how I make my fucking living right now, but there are definitely problems. And
Yeah.
we can't pretend like people don't end up addicted to it, or that it ruins people's relationships or their own relationship to their own bodies, or their relationships to how they approach being intimate with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's too much evidence out there of how it's fucking up like young people as well. And so
Right.
that's one thing. I mean, that's the primary thing, I think, is that it's naive. And I know there's a lot of people in my industry that are very black and white about it and insist that it's fine, and it just isn't. And the type of content that's being made as well, I think, is really depraved. The family role play shit is gross,
Mm-hmm.
and it,
Mm.
it is 100%. It feels like it's a dog whistle for pedophiles, just to
Definitely.
legally procure material that they can fantasize is actual. And that's the getting the legal shit out of the way quickly,
Mm-hmm.
saying, I'm your stepmom and I'm 18. And then quickly getting into the stuff where the girl is saying, mommy, mommy, mommy. And
Yeah.
they're relating to this girl that's a legal adult as though she is in elementary school. That
Yeah.
is fucking pedophilic. That's pedophile dog whistling. And
Wow.
it's disgusting. And obviously there are scenes of me out there engaging with it, going, this is weird, this is weird. And here's the thing that I want to make clear is personally, I have never been on a set where that kind of content is being made, and every single person in the room it hates it
Yeah.
and wishes it didn't exist. It's the
Yeah.
companies that are demanding this material. But a lot of the directors, their hands are tied because they need to keep their job. But they're completely find it revolting. There's talent. I won't do those kinds of scenes anymore.
It's so wild. I mean, what is it? Like the algorithm or something? Like, are they just, where are they getting that this is stuff that people want to be watching?
I think because it is, and I think
Yeah.
that
Ugh.
that the problem is that, and you actually brought this up when we did our episode on, I forgot the episode it was, but the studies were showing that viewers were becoming so desensitized
Oh,
that
yeah.
they were
Yeah.
ramping up what they wanted to see. And that's why.
It's so wild because you'd think like escalation, that's like jumping ponds or something. That's like, I guess it's like going like a serial killer going from killing animals to killing humans. It's like, it seems so odd that someone's preferences would change that much. Like if you're watching straightforward porn to begin
Yeah.
with, then all of a sudden could lead to you. I mean, it does. I know that it does, but that it could lead to you suddenly wanting to watch like pedophilic kind of porn is just blows my mind. Like,
There's one girl in the business who looks, it's not her fault. I feel so bad for her. She looks
mhm,
so young, but she's an adult. She's in her mid 20s, I think. But she
mhm.
just, her body type and her face, if she's just talking regular, you can hear that she's a grown woman. She just looks very young, and the kind of custom requests that she gets for her OnlyFans is sick. It's sick.
Oh, oh
And
yeah.
she's always cast in these roles because she looks so young. And she's had breakdowns because of it. She's had to take breaks from work because it fucks with her so badly. And she,
That's
it's again, it becomes that thing where she is experiencing a lot of shame, but she's also in a situation where it's her bread and butter.
Yeah.
But like it's just crazy that it has to that it is that way, you know?
Ooh, that feedback loop is so scary. It's like
It's
race to the
frightening.
bottom. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if they're adapting to they're escalating people with the content, and then they're adapting to these like sort of escalated sexual fantasies that are like illegal and
Yeah,
wrong.
there's
Yeah.
that's the thing we talked about this with
Yeah.
the kidfluencer thing with Ren Eleanor and you know some of these people going what are you talking about? I only just because I posted a picture of my daughter in a bikini, just because I posted a picture of my daughter with her popsicle, why are you being perverted? And it's like a lot of these guys know that they're not safe going on the dark web. So
Yeah.
they get this safe content and
Yeah.
they shape it to their needs. And we're fucking tailor making that content with the family role play shit.
Yeah, that's so gnarly.
Yeah, and it's naive to think otherwise. You know, not all these pedophiles are you know trying to get actual child exploitation material like on the dark web. A lot of
Yeah.
them can't safely do it. They know that they'll get in trouble.
Yeah, the
So that this is
FBI
yeah.
crawling. Yeah.
So
Wow.
those are some. I mean, there's plenty. I mean, AI is making shit weird, and as far as
Oh,
like where pornography is headed, I mean, it's predominantly in the hands of I think content creators. It used to be you can even see it at
oh God.
AVN
People
now.
could make their own porn with AI,
Yeah.
right?
They can take porn stars and make them. I mean, you've seen some really crazy, awful stuff where they've done edits where it looks like, you know, Taylor Swift is taking on like a football team or something like that. Like they've shown what they can do with it. Absolutely.
Yeesh.
But, you know, the evolution of porn is an interesting one. Well, you know what we should do is in January, you and I should go to the AVN show and
Let's
just
do
walk
that.
around the convention and look and see. I haven't been, and oh gosh, like the last time I went to the AVN was it January of 2019? I think it was.
And that's a conference. Yeah, that's a
It's a convention, and it
uh-huh.
culminates in a in an awards show, which I haven't attended one of those in a really long time. But the convention itself is interesting because they have booths, but a lot of it is like content creators. It used to be companies like Vivid, Wicked, Evil Angel, Anabolic, Hustler, you know, these different companies, and there'd be girls signing these booths. And now, like a lot of those companies either no longer exist or have been absorbed by like Gamma.
Mm,
And so a lot of what you'll see is like toy manufacturers, like Streammate, Chatterbait, like a lot of these streaming platforms
mhm,
like that, or I'm sorry, webcam companies. And
mm,
then like Fansly, I don't know if OnlyFans has one there, but like it's you can see where the industry is now just based on what is at the convention when you're
mm,
walking the floor.
mhm.
And so everything has gone the way of like OF creators, webcam girls. You know, there's a real push for a lot of these adult creators to kind of be influencers as well.
Wow. Yeah, and we've talked about Bonnie Blue and
And our friend Lily Phillips, yeah.
Lily. Lil. Okay, that's really interesting. And we should unpack that more at some point, like have a larger conversation just about the industry. Maybe when we go to AVN, we could go and do an episode.
Yeah, we can do like a podcast there.
Okay.
That's actually we should plan on it actually.
Okay. Wait, do you know where it's going to be?
It's yeah, it's always the same place.
Vegas?
In yeah, it's always Las Vegas, and I believe it's at Resorts World. I'll get more information on it.
Okay. I would love to. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
And we can go see the thunder from down under.
Yes. The real reason why we're
Like
going.
I'm yeah, I'm not even kidding. Um so let me switch gears and ask you some questions about, and I have more questions about the industry, but we can save
Sure.
those for later. But so would you like to tell us a bit? I know that you have been on a new spiritual journey. And would you like to say a bit about your faith journey that you're on?
Yes. First of all, I know that I refer to it as a faith journey, and
Hmm.
it all started with me just constantly referring to everything as a journey to be funny. like
Yeah.
fitness journey. Like because I was
Yes.
like, Poochie, my pug he's on a fitness journey right now. Like that.
Yeah.
And so it sounds so corny. I just don't want people to think like, oh my God, what a goof. She's like,
No, I
her
love it. I
faith journey.
love it.
It
No, because
is,
I watch The Bachelor and they
yeah,
always say like something about the journey. We're on the
yeah, my
journey.
health journey, yeah,
No, I love it though.
okay,
My
okay. So
healing journey.
yeah, okay. But it is, I mean, it is a process,
It's a journey.
it is a journey. So yeah, because I'm sure that there are some people who are maybe that are have followed my career for a while or have followed me on social media and may be a little perplexed as to my I call it a call to Christianity because there's really no other way to see it for me. Historically, I was always kind of agnostic. I believed in something because there had been times in my life where there was clearly either something supernatural that happened or whatever. I believed in something. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't call it God. My father was a devout Buddhist his whole life, and I had had some run-ins with Mormonism and Catholicism. Not me personally, but like I had a kind of a mean Mormon babysitter when I was little. That my mom would leave
Mean
me
a
with
mean
her.
one.
Yeah, she was mean, right? Mormons are so fucking nice.
I
She
know.
Well, it's one of those things where looking back on it, she was like a child bride. She was 19,
Oof.
married to this man, had already had two kids, and then was babysitting me. And I think
Uh-huh.
that it was hard.
She's like, I've had enough of these kids.
Yeah, she was 19 and I was this kid who I think she knew that my mom like drank and smoked and shit like that and I just remember her just like shoving a Bible in my hands. Like we're talking a Bible with like thee, thou, thine,
Hmm.
hard for me to understand. I was like 7 and she told me to read it. And I couldn't. And then I was punished for it.
Oh
So
no.
so I had a very sour perspective towards religion. And then in the Catholics, don't get me started on Catholic school, man. The talk about some bullies and a priest that bummed me out because he told me animals don't have souls, which
Oh my god.
now in my Christian journey, I can there's you can actually point to like biblical texts that suggests that God made animals with souls. But anyway,
He told you animals have no soul. How old were
yeah,
you?
someone told me to talk to him to console me about the fact that my one of my cats died and that he came at me with that. And he was trying to be nice. He was like an older Catholic priest. It was weird though cuz he was a no, was he a Jesuit? No, he wasn't the Jesuit priests are a lot more cool. In an effort to comfort me, I guess, he was like I was like, will I see my cat in heaven?" He goes, "Oh, well, God will take care of you, but basically it's like doubtful." And I was like, "I'm gonna go do porn." No, just kidding. I can't handle all you fucked up adults. Look at me now. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Totally joking.
That's so awful.
Well, I love to point to any childhood trauma and then be like, and is it any wonder
That I ended
that
up
I
in
did rough
porn.
anal sex on screen? So all that to say that that my I didn't have a great relationship with the like specifically those were my two experiences. Like I would go to Mormon church with that family, and then I was going to Catholic school and was a baptized Catholic. My mom actually like decided to become Catholic because I was going to Catholic school
Mm.
and stuff. And listen, the mass, like geez, Easter mass, midnight mass for Christmas. I mean, these were beautiful. Like, there's so much beauty in like the tradition and the ritual of the Catholic Church, and there were some wonderful people. My experience, though, sucked.
Hmm.
So, I was kind of just going on in my life. Was really into a lot of self help. Tried like yoga and kind of like Eastern kind of philosophical stuff. I remember going to a Buddhist monastery and doing like a 90-minute meditation, which was powerful, but none of this stuff really resonated with me. And
Hmm.
so it was just one of those things where I always felt like I had a natural kind of body for yoga and
Mm-hmm.
like an aptitude for it, but it just, I was someone that always really needed more aggro shit, like boxing, like
Mm-hmm.
striking. And so that's kind of where my energy went. So yoga was a no-go. Anyway, all that to say, I'm just going about my life. I'm a pretty philosophical person and into logic and reasoning for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
very academic. And one day I was, and you remember this because I came out to the fucking car afterwards and immediately sent you a message because I was tripping out. I was at
Mm-hmm.
Equinox in Westlake Village, minding my own business, as I
Mm-hmm.
do. I was in the gym getting ready to go out. So I was like on my way out of the locker room. And there's like the little tiny, like kind of hallway. And then like someone was walking in. It was this young woman, totally normal looking. And she stops me and she says, I'm supposed to tell you that God loves you.
Oh.
And I said, I just looked at her and I said, thanks. And then she smiled and kept going. So she didn't like stand there with me and grip my arm and
Mm-hmm.
like try to like witness to me.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say it even in a weird way. She was almost like, "Oh, you dropped your water bottle."
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
like that kind of thing, or "Oh, your shoe's untied." Like that
Gives me
was,
chills.
yeah, it was weird. It was unusual. And so I'm like, she's not crazy. She doesn't seem crazy.
She can afford an Equinox membership.
Yeah, if she's at Equinox, she's doing something. I'm not there anymore, by the way. If anyone like goes there and is like, oh, I'm probably going to see Dana Vespoli, I couldn't justify the cost. But
I go to Planet Fitness.
and I'm at Fitness 19, like, or no, now I'm at the Y, which is even cheaper. It's so good. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
back to this. So I go and I do my workout, and I'm just tripping out. I'm like, that was so interesting. So she had finished. I went back into the locker room and then I went into like they have a steam room and I was in the steam room and she was in the steam room, but she was like sitting off to the side, just steaming, not acting crazy, minding
Mm-hmm.
her own business. And then I finished my steam, took a shower, got dressed. She was gone by the time I left, and then I left you a message. And so that stuck with me as
Mm-hmm.
strange.
Yeah.
A year is so it took about a year and a half. And I remember telling people, I'm like, the weirdest thing happened, the strangest thing happened. A year and a half later, I suddenly, so then that would have been this past summer. I started feeling this overwhelming urge to find a church. Not a Catholic church, not a Presbyterian church, like nothing, again, nothing against these religions specifically, but just like a non denominational Christian church. I found myself wanting to find one. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to describe it except that it felt like I was compelled to.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Felt like I was compelled to. And I found Atmosphere Church online and I started watching their, it's so crazy nowadays because the last time I had been in a church was, I think maybe when I was in college I went to
Unitarian.
it was the one, it was in downtown San Francisco and it's like sort of
Oh, Grace
attached to
Cathedral?
Grace Cathedral. Yes. No, no, not Grace. I've been in Grace Cathedral before. It was like one of those churches where everyone is just singing and clapping and happy.
Oh, like Baptist?
Yeah, it was like a Baptist church
Uh-huh.
with someone, and it was I mean, the music was, everyone was singing. It was beautiful.
Oh. I know somebody who sang for that. It was I know what you're talking about. There's a choir, right?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, what's the name of it? Okay, I'll think of it.
Okay. And if anybody listening knows, please let us know. But yeah, yeah, everything has changed. So like there was even an app for Atmosphere, and there was media you could
Glide?
watch.
Was it Glide?
Glide. That's Glide. It's Glide. It was Glide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so I watched, like they have these series that they do, where they go through, different things like Romans Road. So it's like the book of Romans. And the pastor was just, he's like my age, super cool. And I watched like a whole kind of series that they did. And then I went. So after probably a few weeks of watching these, and then I went and then I started reading. I decided to start reading the Bible. I started with the New Testament. I finished. I'm reading the Old Testament now. I pray every day. And I don't know how to explain it. I think that this was uh, a call,
Mm-hmm.
and my life is better because of it. I think that I'm a better person, and just a more, when I say a better person, I'm definitely more thoughtful, and I don't know how to explain it. There's a piece that I have inside of me that defies human understanding. It is at my core, and that is what I
Mm-hmm.
feel, and I pray, and I have felt the presence of God or the Holy Spirit, or God through the Holy Spirit. That has been my experience, and I it's funny because my partner asked me, like, why did you choose Christianity? Why couldn't you have chosen Buddhism? And I said, because it wasn't my choice. This
Yes.
wasn't my choice. If it had been a choice, I would have chosen Buddhism, because it's kind of like it's in my DNA a little bit. My dad and
Mm-hmm.
my parents were married in a Buddhist ceremony, and are you kidding? Like of course, if it was a choice I was going to make, I would have chosen something that made sense to me, to what I like to think of myself as a rational thinking person. This was not a choice. This was something else. But yeah, I was like, it is definitely something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and it's my policy is like, I wear a cross.
Mm-hmm.
I only take it off to take a shower. I wear it because I'm not going to hide who I am. I'm not going to hide the thing that has only made my life so much better,
Mm-hmm.
that I believe has made me just a better human being. I'm still working on it. I still
Mm-hmm.
sin. Obviously, this is a process. But it's there for people. I'm not hiding it. If you want to talk to me about it, please do. But I'm not going to, you know, like, especially on set, walk up to somebody and say, like, "Hey, you want to talk about Jesus?" Not gonna. That's not me. That's not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if anybody asks me about it, I'm very, very honest.
Hmm. I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk about that today. And I know we're kind of like getting close to the end. I have a bunch more questions, but I appreciate it so much because I feel like sometimes we hide the best parts of ourselves, and it's important. I don't know. I think the more we talk about this kind of thing, the more it's normalized. And I don't know. There's something about just being open and honest and forward with it that's like really inspiring. Well, I guess I think we'll just maybe end here. And then
Sure,
I have a bazillion other questions for you. Unless you want to answer some real quick, fun questions.
sure. I
Okay.
can answer some real quick, fun ones.
All right. Who's your favorite band?
Ah,
One. You can only pick one.
I can only pick one.
That's it. You
Oh,
can have
dude.
two runner ups. You pick one band, two runner ups.
This is so hard.
I know.
I love music. Who's yours?
You know I love Destroyer.
You're right.
Dan Behar, if you're listening, I hope if I knew he was listening, I wouldn't be able to speak. But I love, we love similar like we both love Radiohead.
Yeah, I don't listen to Radiohead as much anymore.
I don't either at all. Tim hates
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I don't blame him for hating
I
Radiohead. Like,
know.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I was saying, like, I think OK Computer is probably one of the best albums of all time. Like, it's definitely played was a deeply influential to me. Just as a person in my 20s, like that was like, for the 90s, that was like my fucking album.
Yeah.
But as a band right now, probably Electric Light Orchestra.
That's so funny. I was totally thinking that you were going to say that.
Yeah, I can't help it. Like, I love them as a
They're
band.
great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really do. But again, that's not the only band I love. Like, obviously I love the Pixies, and yeah,
Dude,
a lot
Fleetwood
of.
Mac. Fleetwood Mac would be up at the top for me.
Oh, Fleetwood Mac's amazing too. I mean, it's hard if you love music.
There's so
It's really
many.
hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Celine Dion. I mean,
No,
come
are
on.
you? Wait, you're
I'm
joking,
just
right?
kidding.
Okay. No, I was not gonna yuck your yum. If you love
No.
Celine, that she's got pipes, you know.
Yeah, so okay, let me get to another one here. What is your favorite skincare product?
I have a few. I like Glow Recipe a
Oh yeah.
lot. I like Glow Recipe. I also use this Tatcha moisturizer during the day. I use like a lot of products from The Ordinary for like lactic acid and all that. I'm 52, so I have a lot of stuff to deal with aging skin, etc. But those are the ones.
We should totally do like a partial, a short episode about all the products we love as aging women. Um,
Yeah.
my God, I should, if I shared my routine with you, it'd just be like, oh, it's so overwhelming. How about this one? One more. What is your favorite horror movie?
That's a tough one too.
I think I know what you'll say, but you can say more than one. Just how about three?
I'll do three. Obviously, I have an enduring love of The Shining. I think everyone knows that. I also really I love the movie Talk to Me. I think it was a perfect horror movie. It really was. And they have those brothers. I think they're brothers. They have a new one coming out called Bring Her Back. That's coming out at the
Ooh.
end of this month.
Talk
That
to
I
Me was
will.
so good.
It
Oh,
was it was just amazing. And then a third one, horror movie. Oh shit, I'm trying to think. Oh, I have a soft spot for The Slayer. Remember when I had you watch that? It was on YouTube.
oh, The Slayer. Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
The Slayer, where that woman goes on that island
Oh,
with.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that movie really hit me.
That is like my tourist trap, I think. It's got
Tourist
some
Trap is
kind.
so good.
Oh,
Yeah,
tourist trap is so freaky.
yeah.
I think I know the one you're missing.
What?
Martyrs.
Martyr's a tough one, man. That one is heavy on so many levels. It's a great one, though. That would definitely be in my top five.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Yeah.
on your recommendation, I watched it and it was really just hard to watch, but also really paid off in the end.
Yeah.
Like what a movie.
Yes.
Like what a journey.
Yeah, no shit, right? That's a horror journey. It took you on a horror journey, like an existential horror journey,
Yes.
as only the French can, right?
Yeah.
With that ending. Holy shit.
I could do this for a lot longer, but let's do more on the trap door. Let's go down the
Let's do
trap
it.
door. And thank you everybody for listening. And I
Hope
hope
I
you
didn't
enjoy.
bore anybody.
Oh my God, you're the least boring person in the
I don't
world.
know. We're
But I'm
disappointing them.
biased. And then, okay, yeah, and follow us. Oh gosh, I just want to say to everyone, we're getting new followers and likes and ratings and stuff. So thanks so much for
Thank you so
listening.
much. Seriously.
And follow us on Instagram at Secret Passage Podcast, and then follow us on X at Secret Pass Pod. And we have a Facebook account, but we are not updating it really. I'm sorry. I know people are looking at it because I get notifications, but we're just not keeping up with that. So, all right. See you next
Yeah.
time.
See you later.